She was in his face, one finger, sharp as a blade. The pink Camaro gleamed behind him. His Camaro. I'd seen that look before, the kind that thinks the ending's already written. 3 cops stood back, watching, not moving. Her voice cut the air, calling him a thief. He didn't blink. Keys dangled in his hand, metal ticking against metal. He saw their eyes, saw who was listening, who wasn't. She thought he was frozen. She thought she'd won. Mason Cole just breathed once, slow. Anne kept counting. Mason Cole had a way of standing still that wasn't still at all. It was the kind of stillness that took the air out of a room, or a driveway. People in this neighborhood didn't know much about him. They knew he worked with his hands, kept his place neat, paid on time. What they didn't know, what Linda sure as hell didn't, was that Mason had once sat in a wood-paneled office downtown, reviewing case files for the county court. Technical advisor, property disputes, title transfers. He could quote sections of the HOA charter without looking at a page. He'd written notes in the margins of more than one judge's ruling. The pink Camaro behind him wasn't a toy. It wasn't a weekend hobby. It was the last piece of his father's life he could still touch. His father had built engines the way some men built trust. Slow, precise, never cutting corners. That Camaro had sat in their garage when Mason was 12, half finished, smelling of oil and dust. When his father passed, Mason finished it alone. Every bolt, every coat of paint. Inside the garage now, taped to the wall above a workbench, was a sun-faded photo. His father, grease on his cheek, one hand on the Camaro's hood. It had been there for years, never moved. On the shelf under that photo sat a plain manila folder, edges curled, a strip of masking tape with a date written in black marker. No one in the cul-de-sac had ever seen him touch it. He hadn't in months. Linda didn't know about the folder, or the photo, or the fact that Mason's silence wasn't fear, it was math. A slow count of variables, waiting for the one moment when they all lined up. The cops behind him didn't know either, but one of them glanced toward the garage, just for a second. Mason saw it, filed it away, keys still ticking in his hand. That's the thing about a man who's been here before. You can mistake his calm for surrender. You can think the ending's already written, but you'd be wrong. The next move came quiet. No shouting, no slammed doors. Just the soft slap of paper against wood. Linda stood on his porch like she owned the deed, clipboard under one arm, a purple pen clicking between her fingers. She smoothed the corner of the notice before pressing it flat against his front door. Bright orange, large block letters. Violation. Her voice carried just enough for the neighbors to hear, not enough to call it a scene. Your vehicle does not meet the neighborhood's approved color standards. Each word placed like a brick in a wall she thought she was building around him. Mason opened the door before she could step away. Didn't block her, didn't invite her in. He just looked at the paper, eyes moving line by line, reading slow, making her wait. Linda shifted her weight, filling the silence. Everyone agrees it's a problem, she added. The way she said everyone left no room for names. Across the street, a man watering his lawn turned his head, then quickly looked back to the hose. 2 houses down, blinds tilted just enough for a pair of eyes to peek through. Mason folded the notice once, twice, slid it into his back pocket. No argument, no signature. Her smile was small, but it was there. She took the click of her pen as a win. 1 week to comply, she said. Then she walked down his steps like a judge leaving the bench. Never looked back. The orange notice left a faint square of clean paint on the door. He closed it, stood there in the dim hallway, one hand resting against the wood. From the garage, sunlight caught the edge of the manila folder. Dust drifted through the beam, slow and heavy. Outside, the sound of Linda's shoes on pavement faded. Somewhere, a screen door creaked shut. He replayed her words in his head. Everyone agrees, it was meant to corner him. Instead, it marked her. Because in Mason Cole's world, everyone was just another word for no one specific. And no one specific could be made to change their mind. Maybe you've stood in a doorway, holding back words. Maybe you've watched someone cross a line, knowing you'd answer in your own time. If you understand that kind of patience, you'll find more of it here. The next week, Mason left the garage door open, not wide, just enough for sunlight to catch the curve of the Camaro's fender. The paint lit up like a flare. Linda noticed. Of course she did. From the corner of his eye, he saw her stop on the sidewalk. Phone in hand, 2 taps, a pause, another tap. By the time she moved on, the image was already traveling. That night, the neighborhood HOA page lit up. A photo of the Camaro, caption in sharp clipped sentences. Non-compliant vehicle, clear violation. Documented at 3:17 p.m. Under it, Linda's name. Her post carried the smug weight of someone who thought the evidence spoke for itself. Neighbors reacted. Some liked the post. Some stayed quiet. One man asked about the exact rule. Linda replied with a screenshot of a clause labeled Vehicle Appearance, 2021 Update. She circled the line about neon or non-traditional colors not being allowed. What she didn't mention, what she didn't even think to check, was the date the Camaro was registered to the property. Long before that clause existed. Long before her clipboard. Mason didn't comment. Didn't even log in from his main account. Instead, he watched, noted every name that engaged, the timestamps, the way some neighbors responded within minutes, others after work hours. Patterns mattered. They told you who checked the group compulsively and who only came when nudged. At 10:42 p.m., a comment appeared. Can this apply to cars already here before 2021? It got no response. Mason clicked download thread, saved every image, every edit, every deleted reply. From the kitchen window, he could see the garage door still open. The Camaro's hood caught the glow from a street lamp. Somewhere in the dark, a shutter clicked. He let it stay open another hour, gave her every chance to take another shot. Because the thing about setting a trap, it works best when they think they found you unprepared. By midnight, the garage was shut, lights out. The folder on his desk held a new subfolder, HOA, color clause. Inside, the law is written in 2021, and the original property registry from a decade earlier. 2 dates, 1 fact. She'd just built her case on a rule that couldn't touch him, and tomorrow she'd build higher. 2 mornings later, Mason rolled the Camaro halfway down the driveway, polished, hood up. Tools laid out like a display. He wasn't fixing anything. He was setting the stage. A silver sedan pulled up across the street. Paul Denton, HOA board member, known for staying out of fights. Mason waved him over. Mind giving me a second opinion? Mason asked. Tone casual, hands steady on the wrench. Paul circled the car, admired the paint. That's when Linda appeared, clipboard in hand, steps quick. She didn't greet Paul, didn't look at Mason. Her eyes went straight to the car. This is a violation, she started, voice sharp. Paul opened his mouth, but Mason spoke first. Paul, you've got a classic Mustang, right? You didn't need HOA sign-off for that? Paul shook his head. Personal property, always been that way. Linda cut in. Exactly. Personal property doesn't need approval, unless... She stopped, realized. Too late. Mason didn't react, just tightened a bolt that didn't need tightening. Paul glanced between them, sensing the shift. Linda left first, fast. Clipboard pressed tight against her side. That afternoon, Mason sat at his desk, opened the HOA, color clause folder, scanned the registration form from 1995. Crisp text, seal intact. He drafted a short post in the neighborhood group. For reference, vehicle registered to property since 1995. Rule change 2021 does not apply retroactively. No opinions, no accusations, just a PDF attachment. He hit send. CC'd every resident. The thread from last week lit up. A few quick comments. Oh, well, that changes things. Didn't know it was here that long. No one defended the clause, and no one tagged Linda. Mason watched the scene by list grow. Paul's name was there. So was the man with the garden hose. Even the blinds from 2 houses down shifted again. Minutes later, his phone buzzed. Text from Paul. She's overstepping. Let's talk. Across the street, Linda stood on her porch, coffee mug in hand. From this distance, Mason could see the tremor ripple across the surface. He closed his laptop. The first 2 blows had landed. And the best part, She'd swung at both of them herself. The community hall was packed, folding chairs in rows, coffee in paper cups, the low hum of neighbors choosing sides. Linda stood at the front, papers in hand. Behind her, the HOA banner draped like a seal of authority. "We're here," she began, voice crisp, "to address a clear violation. I believe we all agree." She scanned the room, savoring the nods from her usual supporters. "That enforcement is necessary." Mason sat 3 rows back, hands folded, eyes fixed on the table in front of him. She called for the motion. "Everyone in favor?" "Before you do that," Mason said. Not loud, just enough to cut the air. He reached into his bag, placed a small speaker on the table, pressed play. Linda's voice filled the hall from weeks earlier. "We don't need to ask them, just tell them it's decided. Everyone will go along." A pause in the recording, the scrape of her pen, her voice again. "Trust me, they'll thank us later." The room changed, whispers, chairs shifting. Linda stepped forward. "That's taken out of..." A chair scraped loudly in the second row. Mr. Harlan, retired, kept to himself. He stood. "Ma'am, I was there. Nobody was asked. He's telling the truth." Another voice. "Same here." Then another. Mason didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched the ripple spread. Linda tried to recover. "This isn't about..." The HOA's own compliance officer walked to the front, not rushing, just steady. Opened his notebook. "Mrs. Keating, I'll need a copy of your meeting notes from that day." Her face tightened. "I don't have them with me." "I'll wait," he said. The whole room heard it. Mason leaned back in his chair. For the first time that night, a small curve touched the corner of his mouth. No raised voice, no dramatic point. Just truth, set loose in a room where it couldn't be called back. Outside, the hall's windows caught the reflection of the pink Camaro parked under the streetlight. It wasn't going anywhere. The hall emptied slowly, chairs folded, footsteps on the linoleum. Outside, the streetlight hummed in the cold air. Linda's clipboard lay forgotten on the front table. The compliance officer carried it out without a word. Mason walked home. No one stopped him. A few nodded. One man, uniform jacket half zipped, gave a single small nod before getting into his cruiser. The garage door was open. The pink Camaro sat under the dim bulb, chrome catching a thin streak of light from the street. He stepped inside, pressed the button. The door came down slow, cutting off the night in slices. The radio on the workbench crackled. Old country, faint static. He reached for a wrench, knelt by the open hood. On the wall above, the photo of his father stayed pinned, edges curled from years of heat. Light from the single bulb brushed across it, then faded as the garage closed. The wrench turned, the radio played. Somewhere in the engine, a valve clicked back into place. He worked without looking at the clock. The street outside was quiet now. In the stillness, the Camaro's paint seemed to glow deeper, almost breathing. He ran a hand along the fender once. Slow. Nothing more needed saying. The Camaro stayed behind that door. Quiet. Untouched. Neighbors passed by without slowing. Some glanced at the garage light. Most didn't need to. The photo on the wall stayed in place. The edges would curl more with time. The face in it would not change. Sometimes the smallest things hold the heaviest weight. An old wrench. A quiet nod. A promise never spoken aloud. Justice did not arrive with noise. It came like the turn of a key, precise, certain. Mason's hands kept moving long after the work was done. Not fixing, just making sure. The street would have new rules now. Some unspoken, some written. He knew which ones mattered. In the end, there are storms that pass, and storms you let pass through you. There are things that do not need to be fought for. As long as we can maintain our reason and our composure,